Brooklyn is back in a big way, and the man sitting in front of me is a major leader in that effort in the Brooklyn Renaissance. His name is Bruce Ratner. He is a developer of real estate. He is the majority owner and developer in the Barclays Center, and he's also 20% owner of the Brooklyn Nets, which will hit the floor this fall, 55 years after the Dodgers left Brooklyn.
55 long, hard Brooklyn years, yes.
And there's obviously a lot of excitement around this, because this was a city that at one point had been written off.
Yes.
What did you see in Brooklyn? And take me through the things that you did before the Barclays Center to help give it a jump start.
I saw so many things in Brooklyn. First of all, it had a legacy and a history that's unparalleled in American history. So many great Americans, whether they be authors or business people or actors, or actresses, athletes, came out of Brooklyn. Supreme Court justices, just so much of America came out of Brooklyn. So it had a great legacy and a great brand, if you will, in my opinion. A lot of people didn't think that then. Second, it had a great infrastructure, fantastic subway system, probably the best in the city. And then it had some beautiful, beautiful neighborhoods that were made out of brick that could not deteriorate. Beautiful neighborhoods, beautiful parks. And so it had all the makings of a great city, which it once had been. It had all the bones, if you will, of a great city. I'd worked for the city for 7 years.
Right, in the Koch administration.
Yeah, Koch administration and the Lindsay administration too. And I knew the city very well. And I always, coming from where I came from, even then, Brooklyn looked like a great place, and I just fell in love with the place. And I thought that it could be the next business center, downtown business center, after Wall Street and Midtown, that it could be a huge business center and a huge place for residential and arts. I always thought of it as the left bank of New York City.
So you went in with an office development, and then you started also with apartment building. Take me through that period.
It's hard to almost believe. In 1985, when we started, I built the first office building in downtown Brooklyn in over a quarter of a century. The crime rate was 4 times the numbers that you have today in 1985. But there were bullet holes in the windows of our buildings, which scared the tenants.
Of course, yeah.
You know, we had big security issues. It was very difficult. People, you know what, I would start every presentation I would make, I'd say, Brooklyn is the greatest downtown in America. And my tenants would just laugh, what are you talking about?
What were the characteristics that you saw in Brooklyn that gave you the confidence that you would be able to come in and do what's happening today?
At the end of the day, in the beginning of the day, it's the people. It was a very vibrant community. It wasn't a wealthy community, but it was vibrant. New ideas, new blood, young people moving in, even in those difficult times. And that really was the difference between, say, Cleveland and Detroit. We had huge amounts of immigration in this city. 40% of the city is immigrants with new ideas, and it keeps us all going and so on. At the end of the day, New York City is a special place in this world, and there aren't many places like that. So.
And of course, the Brooklyn Nets, a big part of your story.
Sure.
You were majority owner of the Nets from, was it 2004 to?
Till 2 years ago.
Okay, till 2 years ago, 2010, and
right.
You sold part of the team partly to get the deal done.
Correct,
for the Barclays
that's right.
Center.
Absolutely. The world crashed, the economy crashed. We could not get loans. This was done against all odds. And we needed a partner to help us do it.
How did you get Jay-Z involved?
So what happened was someone had said, it had told me about Jay-Z might have an interest in investing in sports. So I was able to get a meeting with him, and he met me out in Brooklyn, and we walked over to the site. And we talked a little bit, then he came back to my office, we talked some more. We basically put our hands, metaphorically put our hands out and shook hands that day. It was like one day, we just got along and it made sense.
What was it that drew you to him? There were a lot of people that you could have called to say, hey, you should become an investor. What was it about Jay-Z?
The person who said he was interested maybe in investing in a team, knew him reasonably well, and said he was a very decent man, that he was good at business, that he would make a good partner, and that obviously he had huge celebrity status, and that would be very helpful to us to have somebody with his kind of celebrity status being involved in the team. What I didn't know was, would he be a terrific partner or not? And that had nothing to do with rap or anything, but you never know about a partner. And the second thing was that he was so good at business and his judgment was so good That's what I didn't know. I thought, okay, he'd be a nice celebrity and he'd be a nice name, but it turned out to be he contributes in an incredible way to this day, whether it be logo, whether it be judgments about what the interior looks like of the arena, whether it be basketball decisions, whether it be almost everything. He weighs in on a huge amount, and he's spot on so much, even what artists to have in the arena.
How are you going to win? I mean, you've got some key personnel decisions that have been made. You've seemed to build a great roster in the past 3 years. Will this be a winning team?
This is a winning team, not will be. It will be a winning team, let me say that. It's going to be a winning team. We've got a very good roster.
Which personnel decisions excite you the most?
Darren's decision to say was really critical. That was really the linchpin, I think, that made sure. Obviously, the Joe Johnson, tremendously important. Billy's got a very good eye for talent. I've always said that, I talked to Billy about what he does and who he thinks is good, and the period of time that I've known him, I think he has a good eye for talent. It starts with the GM and it starts with the ownership, and I have to give a lot of credit to Mr. Prokhorov. Because I'm very involved in the business side of the team. I'm not as involved in the basketball.
What is your relationship with him like?
It turns out, like the Jay-Z partnership, it's one of the best partnerships I've ever had, and I've had a lot of partnerships.
Are there things that you've been able to help him with since you were the majority owner?
I think on the basketball side, in the beginning, giving some guidance. You come into it, it's different being a fan versus an owner. So many different ways. How to deal with the GM, there's a lot of different, what the players are like, how to deal with the players and so on. In the beginning, I think I was helpful, but honestly, they being the Russians and Mikhail Prokhorov in particular, they caught on very, very quickly. And they work with Billy, and honestly, they do 90%. I mean, they ask, during the year, Billy would call me and say, this is what we want to do, what do you think? Yeah, okay, but Billy and the Russians have done a terrific job, I must say.
Is Dwight Howard officially out of the running now that you've signed Lopez, or is it a possibility still that
we have something called a league, and we have something called I'm not allowed to talk about that, so I can't talk about players on other teams.
Okay. So. And you mentioned the difficulty that you had. You embarked upon the Barclays Center idea in 2003, and then things really started to pick up. 2008, we were hit with this financial crisis. There were lawsuits involved, all kinds of aggravation. Did you ever think about giving up?
I never thought about giving up, ever, 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 ever. If you ask me a different question, if you ask me, were there periods of time where I doubted that it would happen? Yes, there were times I did not think it would happen. I never thought about giving up. That word is not easily in my vocabulary. Never has been. You can't be a developer of large-scale projects and have the word give up in your vocabulary. You can have words like, I think it may not happen and I better do this. So I did have questions whether it would happen. November, December, 2008, after the crash, after Lehman, and there was no financing available. Our company's stock went way down. I really didn't think it. I thought it might not happen.
But there are deals that happen where you get in maybe a third through in the deal, and you say maybe this was not the right decision.
Yes, there are.
But this obviously wasn't that deal. This was not one of those. Did you envision this kind of hysteria?
I didn't, honestly. I could say I did, but I didn't. I thought we built a lot of big projects. We built this project, Metrotech in downtown Brooklyn, which is probably about the size of Atlantic Yards. So we built very, very big projects in the city. And without the kind of controversy and litigation that this had, Times Square, we built the whole south side of 42nd Street where the movie theaters are and so on. That took years, was hard to do. But that being said, I didn't expect the amount of litigation, the amount of controversy. So that did surprise me, yes. I thought, the usual stuff. We'd get, some community opposition, some community for, some community against. But it was much more than I anticipated.
The thing that really strikes me about you is you've been portrayed both as a good guy and a bad guy.